Chapter 1. Growing Up in Slovenia. Melania Trump was born on April 26, 1970, in a small town called Sevnica. This town is in Slovenia, a beautiful country in Europe. It has green hills, quiet rivers, and tiny villages. Life there was simple, but not always easy. Melania's family lived in a modest apartment. It wasn't big, but it was home. Her father, Victor, worked in a car factory. Every day, he left early in the morning. The factory was noisy and tough, but he worked hard to support his family. Melania admired him. She knew he wanted a better future for her and her sister. Her mother, Amalia, had a different kind of job. She designed and sewed clothes for a children's clothing company. Melania often watched her mother work. The sound of the sewing machine filled the small apartment. Amalia's hands moved quickly, stitching fabric into beautiful dresses. Melania loved to touch the soft materials and see the bright colors. One day, she thought, I want to wear something as beautiful as this. Melania wasn't an only child. She had an older sister, Inez. The two girls were very close. They shared secrets, played games, and sometimes fought over toys, like all siblings do. But in the end, they always made up. Inez often told Melania stories about big cities and exciting places far away. Melania listened with wide eyes. She dreamed of traveling to these places someday. The town of Sevnica was small and quiet, surrounded by nature. As a young girl, Melania loved playing outside. She ran through the fields, picked flowers, and climbed trees with her friends. In the winter, when the snow fell, she made snowmen and had snowball fights. Life in Sevnica was peaceful, but Melania sometimes felt it was too small. She wanted more. She wanted to see the world. At school, Melania was a good student. She was quiet and polite, but she worked hard. Teachers often praised her for being disciplined and focused. She loved art and drawing. Sometimes she would sit by the window and sketch the hills and rivers she saw outside. She also enjoyed learning languages. Speaking in different ways fascinated her. Maybe this will help me travel one day, she thought. Even as a child, Melania stood out. She was tall for her age and had striking features. Her classmates noticed her calm confidence. She wasn't loud or flashy, but there was something special about her. She moved gracefully, even when she was just walking to class. People often said Melania could be a model. But life wasn't always perfect. Growing up in Slovenia in the 1970s was challenging. The country was part of Yugoslavia, a communist nation. This meant there were strict rules, and people didn't have many freedoms. Money was tight, and families had to work hard just to get by. Melania's parents did their best to make life comfortable, but there were times when they struggled. Melania saw how hard her parents worked. She watched her father return home tired from the factory. She noticed how her mother stayed up late sewing clothes. This made her determined. She promised herself, "One day, I will make them proud." Even in the quiet town of Sevnica, there were moments of magic. Every weekend, The family would gather for meals. They would laugh, share stories, and enjoy Amalia's delicious cooking. On holidays, they visited the countryside to see relatives. Melania loved these trips. She felt a deep connection to her family and her roots. When Melania was about 12 years old, something exciting happened. Her mother brought home a fashion magazine from the city. It was filled with pictures of tall, elegant women in beautiful dresses. Melania couldn't stop looking at it. The models seemed so glamorous, so confident. Maybe I can be like them one day, she thought. She began practicing poses in front of the mirror, imitating the women in the magazine. She didn't tell anyone about her dream, not even her sister. It felt too big, too impossible. As she grew older, Melania's dreams grew bigger. She started to pay more attention to fashion and style. Her mother noticed and began making special clothes for her. Amalia believed in her daughter's potential. She told Melania, "If you work hard, you can achieve anything." These words stayed with her. By the time Melania was a teenager, she had a clear goal. She wanted to leave Sevnica and see the world. She wanted to become a model and live a life filled with excitement and beauty. But how could a girl from a small town in Slovenia make this dream come true? The first step was education. Melania knew she needed to study and prepare herself. After finishing primary school, she attended a high school for design and photography in Ljubljana, the capital city of Slovenia. It was her first taste of a bigger world. Ljubljana was lively and full of energy. Melania loved walking through its streets, exploring shops, and meeting new people. In high school, her modeling dreams became more real. A photographer noticed her unique looks and asked her to pose for a photo shoot. Melania was nervous at first, but she quickly felt at ease in front of the camera. The photos turned out stunning. For the first time, she felt, "Maybe I can really do this." Her friends and family began to see her potential. They encouraged her to pursue modeling, but not everyone believed in her. Some people in Sevnica said, "She's just a small-town girl. She'll never make it." These words hurt, but Melania didn't let them stop her. Instead, she used them as motivation. "I'll prove them wrong," she told herself. At 16, Melania signed with a modeling agency. This was a huge step for her. It meant traveling to bigger cities like Milan and Paris. It meant leaving her family and the quiet life of Sevnica behind. She was scared, but also excited. She knew this was her chance to chase her dreams. As Melania packed her bags to leave Sevnica, she looked around her small apartment one last time. She felt a mix of emotions: sadness, hope, and determination. She knew her journey wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to face whatever came next. Little did she know, this was just the beginning of an incredible life. From the small town of Sevnica, Melania Knaus was about to step onto the world stage. Chapter 2: A Young Girl with Big Dreams. Melania was not like most children in Sevnica. She was quiet, thoughtful, and often lost in her own world. While other kids played loudly in the streets, Melania spent hours drawing, imagining, and dreaming. She loved creating beautiful things, pictures of dresses, flowers, and elegant women. Even as a child, she had a sense of style. Her love for art and fashion started early. Melania would watch her mother sew dresses for her job. The fabric swirled and shimmered under the sewing machine, and Melania was fascinated. She loved how a simple piece of cloth could turn into something so beautiful. Sometimes she would take the leftover scraps of fabric and make little outfits for her dolls. One day, she thought, I will wear dresses like these. At school, Melania was a good student. She wasn't the loudest or most outgoing, but she was smart and hard-working. Teachers liked her because she was polite and focused. She always listened carefully and did her homework on time. But even while studying math or science, Melania's mind often wandered. She dreamed of bright lights, tall buildings, and runways where models walked in sparkling dresses. Melania's favorite class was art. She loved painting and drawing, and her teachers noticed her talent. "You have an eye for beauty," one of them told her. These words stayed with her. They made her feel special, like she could do something amazing with her life. At home, Melania spent hours flipping through magazines. In Slovenia, fashion magazines were hard to find, but her mother sometimes brought them home from the city. The glossy pages were filled with models wearing glamorous clothes and posing in faraway places. Melania's heart raced as she looked at the pictures. The models seemed so confident, so perfect. Could I ever be like them? She wondered. The answer wasn't clear. Life in Slovenia was small and simple. Most girls grew up, got married, and stayed close to home. Becoming a model felt like an impossible dream. But Melania didn't let go of it. Every time she looked at the magazines, her dream grew stronger. Melania's older sister, Inez, was her closest friend. Inez knew about Melania's dreams and encouraged her. The two girls often stayed up late, whispering about the future. "One day, you'll leave Slovenia," Inez said. "You'll travel the world." Melania smiled, but didn't say much. She didn't want to get her hopes up too high. Even though Melania was quiet, she had a strong sense of determination. When she set her mind to something, she didn't give up easily. This was clear to everyone who knew her. She didn't just dream of being a model. She began to prepare for it. In front of the mirror, she practiced walking gracefully, just like the models in the magazines. She studied their poses and tried to copy them. It was her secret practice, her first step toward the big dream. But life in Slovenia wasn't all about dreams. Melania also had responsibilities. She helped her parents around the house, did her chores, and studied hard at school. There were times when she felt torn between her daily life and her dreams. "Can a small-town girl like me ever make it?" she wondered. Still, she held on to the hope that someday things would change. One day, something exciting happened. A photographer came to Slovenia to take pictures for a local project. He noticed Melania walking with her friends. Her tall, graceful figure and calm beauty caught his attention. "You should try modeling," he told her. Melania was surprised and thrilled. She couldn't believe someone had noticed her potential. Maybe my dream isn't so impossible after all, she thought. Melania shared the news with her family. Her parents were cautious but supportive. They wanted her to focus on school, but they didn't discourage her dream. "If this is what you want," her mother said, "work hard for it. Don't give up." Melania nodded. She promised herself she would do her best. By now, Melania was a teenager. She was growing more confident and independent. She continued practicing her poses and paying attention to fashion. Her friends started to notice. "Melania looks like a model," they whispered. "She's different from the rest of us." Some girls were jealous, but most were proud of her. Sevnica was a small town, and everyone liked to see one of their own succeed. Melania's first opportunity came when she was 16. A photographer invited her to do a small photo shoot. It wasn't for a big magazine or a famous brand, just a local project. But for Melania, it was a big deal. She was nervous as she stood in front of the camera for the first time. Her heart raced, and her hands felt cold. But as the photographer started snapping pictures, something changed. She relaxed. She began to pose naturally, her long limbs moving gracefully. The photographer was impressed. "You have a gift," he said. Melania couldn't stop smiling. The photos turned out beautifully. When Melania saw them, she felt a spark of excitement. For the first time, she saw herself the way she had always dreamed, as a model. The photos weren't famous, but they gave her the confidence to keep going. As Melania walked through the streets of Sevnica, people began to notice her more. "That's the girl who did the photo shoot," they said. Melania stayed humble, but inside she felt proud. Her dream was slowly starting to take shape. But it wasn't easy. Melania knew that to become a real model, she would have to leave Sevnica. She would have to move to bigger cities like Ljubljana, Milan, or even Paris. This thought both excited and scared her. Leaving her family and the only life she had ever known wasn't something she could take lightly. But she also knew that staying in Sevnica would mean giving up her dream. In the evenings, she often sat by her bedroom window, looking out at the quiet streets. The town was peaceful, but Melania wanted more. She wanted to see the world beyond the hills of Sevnica. She wanted to walk on runways, wear beautiful clothes, and make her family proud. One day, she whispered to herself, "I'll do it." The road ahead was uncertain, but Melania had something special, a big dream, and the determination to follow it. She didn't know what the future held, but she was ready to take the first step. This was just the beginning of her journey. From a quiet, artistic girl in Sevnica, Melania was starting to become something more. Her dreams were calling, and she was ready to answer. Chapter 3. Starting her modeling career. Melania's dream of becoming a model was slowly coming true. She was 16 years old, living in her small town of Sevnica, But her mind was already imagining faraway cities and bright lights. Everything began with a single chance, and it changed her life forever. It started with a photographer. He saw Melania walking in the town square. She was tall, graceful, and had a quiet beauty that made her stand out. "You should try modeling," he said. Melania was surprised. Could she really do it? She felt shy, but also excited. She had been dreaming of this moment for years. A few weeks later, she had her first photo shoot. Melania was nervous as she walked into the studio. Bright lights were everywhere, and the camera seemed so big. "What if I make a mistake?" she thought. But the photographer smiled and said, "Just relax. Be yourself." Slowly, Melania began to feel more comfortable. She posed for the camera, turning her head this way and that. The photographer was impressed. "You're a natural," he said. When Melania saw the photos, she was amazed. She looked like the models she had admired in magazines. It felt like a dream. But it wasn't just a dream anymore. It was real. People began to notice her talent and beauty. Word spread. And soon, more photographers wanted to work with her. Melania started taking part in small fashion shows. These weren't big runway events like in Paris or Milan. They were local shows, but they were important to her. She walked confidently, wearing stylish dresses and high heels. The audience watched her closely. They could see she was special. She had a calm elegance that made her unforgettable. At school, her friends were proud of her. "You're going to be famous one day," they said. Melania smiled, but stayed humble. She didn't let her new success change her. She knew she still had a lot to learn. Her parents supported her modeling career, but they also gave her advice. "Stay focused," her father said. "Work hard and don't forget your roots." Her mother added, "Always be kind to others. True beauty comes from the inside." Melania listened carefully. She wanted to make her family proud. As her modeling career grew, Melania had to make some big decisions. One of the hardest was balancing school and modeling. She loved learning, but she also wanted to follow her dream. It wasn't easy. Sometimes she had to miss classes to go to photo shoots or fashion shows, but she always made sure to catch up on her studies. "Education is important," her parents reminded her. "It will help you in the future." Melania worked hard to prove herself. She spent hours practicing her poses in front of the mirror. She learned how to walk with confidence and elegance. She studied the work of famous models, watching how they moved and smiled. "I want to be the best," she thought. Soon, Melania's photos began appearing in local magazines. People in Slovenia started recognizing her. "Isn't that the girl from Sevnica?" they asked. Melania stayed humble, but she couldn't help feeling excited. Her dream was coming to life. One day, a modeling agency contacted her. They had seen her photos and wanted to represent her. This was a huge opportunity. The agency worked with models who traveled to Milan, Paris, and New York. Melania couldn't believe it. She had always dreamed of seeing these cities, but now it seemed possible. Her first trip with the agency was to Ljubljana. the capital of Slovenia. It was her first time working in a big city. The streets were busy, the people were stylish, and the opportunities seemed endless. Melania felt both nervous and thrilled. This is just the beginning, she thought. In Ljubljana, she took part in more professional photo shoots. The photographers loved her unique look. "You're not just beautiful," one of them said. "You have something different, something special." These words gave Melania even more confidence. The fashion world wasn't always easy. Melania faced challenges too. Some people doubted her. "She's just a small-town girl," they said. But Melania didn't let these comments stop her. Instead, she worked even harder. She knew that success wouldn't come overnight. It would take time, effort, and patience. Melania also learned to handle rejection. Not every job she applied for was a success. Sometimes she wasn't chosen for a fashion show or a photo shoot. These moments were tough, but they made her stronger. She reminded herself, "Every great model started somewhere. I'll keep trying." As she gained more experience, Melania's dream grew bigger. She no longer just wanted to be a model. She wanted to be an international model. She wanted to walk the runways of Milan and Paris, to see her face in global magazines. "One day, I'll make it," she promised herself. Her first step toward that goal was leaving Sevnica. This was a big decision. Leaving her small town meant saying goodbye to her family, her friends, and the life she had always known. It wasn't easy. On the day she packed her bags, she felt a mix of emotions: excitement, fear, and sadness. "I'll miss you," she told her parents. Her mother hugged her tightly. "We're so proud of you," she said. "Go chase your dreams." Melania moved to Milan, one of the fashion capitals of the world. It was a completely new experience for her. The city was big, fast, and full of opportunities. Everywhere she looked, there were beautiful buildings, stylish people, and busy streets. It was exactly what she had dreamed of. In Milan, Melania began working with more famous photographers and designers. She walked in bigger fashion shows and appeared in international magazines. People started noticing her even more. They admired her calm confidence and timeless beauty. "Who is this new model?" they asked. Melania didn't let the attention go to her head. She stayed focused on her work and continued to improve. Her journey as a model was just beginning. From a small town in Slovenia to the fashion streets of Milan, Melania had taken her first big step toward success. But her story didn't end there. There were still bigger dreams to chase, and Melania was ready to follow them. Chapter 4. Moving to the big city. Melania's journey from her small town in Slovenia to the big cities of Milan and Paris was nothing short of a dream come true. But it wasn't easy. She had to work hard, face challenges, and prove herself. The road was not always smooth, but Melania was ready to do whatever it took to succeed. At just 18 years old, Melania left her home behind. With a suitcase in hand and a heart full of hope, she boarded the train to Milan. She had never been away from her family for so long. As the train sped away from Sevnica, she looked out of the window at the hills and fields she had known her whole life. This is it, she thought. A new chapter begins. When Melania arrived in Milan, the city felt enormous. The streets were busy, the people were stylish, and the buildings were tall and grand. Everywhere she looked, there were billboards with models, high-end boutiques, and photographers carrying cameras. It was a world she had only dreamed of. But Milan wasn't just glamorous. It was also tough. Melania quickly realized that the competition in the fashion industry was fierce. Hundreds of young women from all over the world were there, all chasing the same dream. Some were taller, some were more experienced, and many had powerful connections. Melania felt like a small fish in a big pond. But instead of feeling discouraged, she reminded herself, "I've come this far. I won't give up." Her first few weeks in Milan were challenging. She stayed in a tiny apartment shared with other aspiring models. The room was small and the bed was hard. Money was tight. Most days Melania ate simple meals like bread and pasta, but she didn't complain. She knew that every great journey starts with small steps. Melania began attending casting calls. These were auditions where models lined up to show their portfolios to designers and photographers. Some casting calls lasted all day. Melania often waited for hours, standing in her high heels, hoping to be noticed. Sometimes the answer was no, but every no made her stronger. She learned to be patient and persistent. One day, she told herself, someone will say yes. Finally, that day came. A well-known photographer saw her at a casting call and was impressed. He loved her natural beauty and calm confidence. "You have something special," he said. Melania smiled shyly, but inside she was thrilled. This was her first big break. The photographer invited her to do a photo shoot for a magazine. Melania was nervous as she stepped into the studio. The bright lights, the makeup artists, and the expensive clothes. It all felt so overwhelming. But as soon as the camera started clicking, Melania transformed. She posed gracefully, her face calm and her movements elegant. The photographer was amazed. "You're a natural," he said. The magazine photos were a success. People in the fashion world began to notice Melania. Her name started to spread, and she received more offers for photo shoots and runway shows. Each job was a new opportunity to learn and grow. Melania worked hard, never taking anything for granted. She always arrived on time, treated everyone with respect, and gave her best effort. After her success in Milan, Melania's career took her to Paris. If Milan was glamorous, Paris was magical. The Eiffel Tower, the chic cafes, the elegant streets, everything about Paris felt like a fairy tale. But Melania wasn't there to sightsee. She was there to work, and she took her job seriously. Paris was even more competitive than Milan. The models were stunning, and the designers were demanding. Melania faced long hours, harsh criticism, and constant pressure to look perfect. But she didn't let it discourage her. She remembered her parents' advice. Stay focused, work hard. One of her most exciting moments in Paris was walking in her first major fashion show. The lights were blinding, the music was loud, and the audience was full of important people from the fashion industry. Backstage, Melania felt her heart pounding. What if I mess up? She thought. But as soon as she stepped onto the runway, all her fears melted away. She walked with confidence, her head held high and her movements smooth. The audience loved her. She felt proud, knowing that all her hard work was paying off. Melania also learned a lot during her time in Milan and Paris. She learned how to speak Italian and French, which helped her communicate with clients and photographers. She learned how to pose for the camera, walk the runway, and handle herself in a professional way. These skills made her stand out in the competitive world of modeling. But life as a model wasn't always easy. Melania missed her family and her hometown. She often felt lonely in the big cities. There were times when she doubted herself. Am I good enough? She wondered. But whenever she felt down, she reminded herself why she had started this journey. I want to make my family proud, she thought. I want to follow my dream. One of Melania's secrets to success was her calm and disciplined personality. While other models partied late into the night, Melania focused on her work. She made healthy choices, stayed professional, and kept her life simple. This earned her respect in the industry. Designers and photographers trusted her because they knew she was reliable and hardworking. Over time, Melania became more successful. She started working with famous brands and appeared in major magazines. Her face became familiar in the fashion world. People admired her for her beauty, but also for her determination and professionalism. She was no longer just a small-town girl from Slovenia. She was an international model. Despite her success, Melania never forgot where she came from. She stayed humble and grateful. Whenever she had a break from work, she called her family back in Sevnica. She told them about her experiences in Milan and Paris, and they encouraged her to keep going. Their love and support meant everything to her. Melania's time in Milan and Paris taught her many lessons. She learned that success doesn't come overnight. It takes hard work, patience, and the courage to keep going, even when things are difficult. She also learned the importance of staying true to herself. In an industry full of pressure and competition, Melania stayed grounded and focused on her goals. By the end of her time in Milan and Paris, Melania had built a strong foundation for her modeling career. She had proven herself in two of the biggest fashion capitals in the world. But this was just the beginning. Her journey was far from over. Bigger opportunities were waiting for her, and Melania was ready to take the next step. Chapter 5. Coming to America. In the 1990s, Melania's dream took her across the ocean. She moved to New York City, one of the most exciting and famous cities in the world. It was a big step and a brave one. Melania left everything she knew behind: her family, her friends, and her life in Europe. But she was ready. She had worked hard in Milan and Paris, and now it was time to chase her dreams in America. When Melania arrived in New York, the city felt like a different planet. The streets were loud and crowded. Yellow taxis zoomed past, skyscrapers touched the clouds, neon signs lit up the night sky. It was fast, noisy, and full of energy. This is the city where dreams come true, Melania thought. But she also felt nervous. Could she make it here? Melania didn't waste any time. She got straight to work. Modeling agencies introduced her to top photographers and designers. She went to casting calls, met with clients, and showed them her portfolio. She walked into each room with calm confidence, even when she felt a little unsure inside. If I've made it this far, she reminded herself, I can keep going. Soon, Melania started booking jobs. Her first assignments weren't for major brands or magazines, but she didn't mind. Every job was a chance to prove herself. She posed for catalog shoots, fashion ads, and small campaigns. She was determined to make a name for herself in the competitive world of New York modeling. But the journey wasn't always easy. Living in New York was expensive, and Melania had to be careful with her money. She shared a small apartment with other models, just like she had in Milan. They supported each other, but life was still tough. Melania often cooked simple meals at home to save money. Some nights, she lay awake thinking about her family back in Slovenia. Am I doing the right thing? She wondered. But she always found the strength to keep going. One of Melania's first big breaks in New York came when she worked with a famous photographer. He admired her natural beauty and her quiet elegance. You have a unique look, he told her. Let's create something amazing. During the photo shoot, Melania gave it her all. She posed gracefully, her expression calm but powerful. When the photos were published, they caught the attention of people in the fashion industry. Melania was on her way. Soon, more opportunities came her way. Melania appeared in magazines, including Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. She modeled for fashion brands and attended glamorous events. Her face began to appear on billboards and in advertisements. People started to recognize her. Who is this stunning new model? They asked. Despite her rising success, Melania stayed humble. She didn't let fame change her. She remembered her parents' advice to stay focused and work hard. While some models partied late into the night, Melania kept her routine simple. She ate healthy, stayed professional, and made sure to get enough rest. This is my job, she told herself. I have to take it seriously. One of Melania's most exciting moments was walking in her first New York Fashion Week show. The event was huge, with bright lights, loud music, and a glamorous audience. Melania felt her heart racing backstage. She took a deep breath, adjusted her dress, and stepped onto the runway. The crowd watched as she walked confidently, her movements smooth and elegant. When she finished, she felt a rush of pride. I did it, she thought. As Melania's career grew, she began meeting important people in the fashion world. Designers loved her professionalism and grace. Photographers admired her ability to bring emotion to every picture. She earned a reputation as a reliable and hard-working model. But it wasn't just her beauty that stood out. It was her determination and kindness. People liked working with her because she was respectful and down to earth. Melania also started traveling more. Her work took her to Los Angeles, Miami, and other cities across the United States. Each new place brought new opportunities and challenges. Sometimes she felt lonely being so far from home, but she stayed focused on her goals. "This is my dream," she reminded herself. "I have to keep going." One day, while working on a photo shoot in New York, Melania had a chance meeting that would change her life forever. It was at a party in 1998, hosted by a friend in the fashion industry. There, she met a man who was famous for his success in business, Donald Trump. He was charming, confident, and larger than life. Donald was immediately drawn to Melania. He admired her beauty and grace, but also her calm and reserved personality. Melania was polite, but cautious. She had worked hard to build her modeling career and didn't want to lose focus. But as she got to know Donald, she realized they had a lot in common. He admired her work ethic and her determination. "You're not like anyone I've ever met," he told her. They began spending more time together, and soon a relationship began to bloom. Even as her personal life changed, Melania stayed committed to her modeling career. She continued working with top photographers and appearing in major magazines. Her face became even more well-known, and she gained respect in the industry. But Melania also started thinking about her future. Modeling had been her dream, but now she wondered what else life might have in store for her. By the early 2000s, Melania had achieved what many only dreamed of. She had moved from a small town in Slovenia to one of the biggest cities in the world. She had built a successful modeling career and made a name for herself in the fashion industry. But her journey was far from over. New opportunities and challenges were waiting for her. Melania's story was one of determination, hard work, and courage. She had proven that even a girl from a small town could achieve big dreams. And as she looked ahead to the future, she knew that her greatest adventures were still to come. Before we begin Chapter 6, a quick note for our listeners. You're currently listening to this audiobook on Woo English. Remember, this content is specially made for Woo English listeners only. If you're hearing it on any other channel, it may be a violation of Woo English's rights. Please ensure you're tuned into the right source to fully enjoy and respect this audiobook journey. Now let's continue the story. Chapter 6. Meeting Donald Trump. In 1998, Melania's life changed forever. She was living in New York City and working as a model. She had built a successful career and appeared in magazines, on billboards, and at fashion shows. But on one special night, something unexpected happened. She met a man who would soon become the center of her life, Donald Trump. It all started at a party. The event was glamorous, with music, laughter, and the city's most influential people. Melania wasn't the type to attend many parties, but this one was different. It was hosted by a friend in the fashion industry, and she decided to go. She wore a simple but elegant black dress, and as always, she carried herself with quiet confidence. Little did she know this party would change her life. At the same party was Donald Trump. He was already famous, a wealthy businessman known for his luxury hotels, real estate, and bold personality. Donald was larger than life. He was charming, confident, and loved being the center of attention. He noticed Melania as soon as she walked into the room. Donald was intrigued. Melania was different from anyone he had met before. She wasn't trying to impress anyone, and she wasn't drawn to his wealth or fame. She stood out because of her calm, graceful presence. He decided he had to talk to her. Donald approached Melania and introduced himself. "Hi, I'm Donald," he said with a confident smile. Melania looked at him, polite but cautious. She knew who he was. Everyone in New York did, but she didn't seem overly impressed. This only made Donald more interested. He liked that she wasn't trying to flatter him or get his attention. The two started talking. Donald asked Melania about her life, her career, and her dreams. She told him about growing up in Slovenia, moving to Milan and Paris, and finally coming to New York. Donald listened closely. He admired her determination and independence. "You're amazing," he told her. "You've worked so hard to get here." Donald wanted to see Melania again, but she wasn't so quick to agree. She had seen how people acted around powerful men like him. She didn't want to be just another woman in his life. Melania was careful and thoughtful. She told Donald he would have to prove he was serious if he wanted to date her. Donald didn't give up. He called Melania often and sent her flowers. He invited her to dinners and events, but she took her time. Melania wanted to make sure she could trust him. She didn't want to rush into anything. After some time, Melania agreed to go on a date with Donald. It was the start of a relationship filled with highs and lows. Donald's life was fast-paced and public, while Melania was private and reserved. But somehow, they balanced each other. He loved her calm nature, and she admired his ambition and energy. Donald often took Melania to his luxurious properties, like his famous Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. She enjoyed the beauty of these places, but never let them change her. Melania remained true to herself, quiet, thoughtful, and focused on her own goals. As their relationship grew, Melania got to know Donald's world. She met his family, including his children from his previous marriages. She also saw how much attention he attracted. Everywhere they went, reporters followed. Donald loved the spotlight, but Melania preferred to stay in the background. She wasn't interested in fame for its own sake. In 2004, after several years of dating, Donald proposed to Melania. He chose a stunning engagement ring with a large diamond. The proposal was grand, just like everything else Donald did. Melania said yes, and the couple began planning their wedding. Their wedding in 2005 was a lavish event. It took place at Donald's Mar-a-Lago resort, with hundreds of guests, including celebrities, politicians, and business leaders. Melania wore a custom-designed dress by Christian Dior. The dress was breathtaking, with a long train and delicate embroidery. It was the kind of gown most people only dream about. As she walked down the aisle, Melania felt a mix of emotions: happiness, excitement, and a little nervousness. She was stepping into a new chapter of her life, one that would bring new challenges and opportunities. After the wedding, Melania's life changed even more. She became part of Donald's high-profile world. They attended events together, appeared in magazines, and traveled the world. People were curious about her. Who was this elegant, soft-spoken woman who had captured Donald Trump's heart? Despite the attention, Melania stayed focused on her own goals. She continued to work on her modeling career and took on new projects, including designing jewelry. She also supported Donald in his business ventures, always offering him quiet strength and encouragement. Their relationship wasn't always perfect. Like any couple, they faced challenges. Donald's life was full of big deals, media attention, and constant activity. Melania sometimes felt overwhelmed by the public spotlight. But through it all, they remained a team. Melania's calm nature helped balance Donald's bold personality. Melania's journey from a small town in Slovenia to becoming Mrs. Trump was extraordinary. It wasn't just about marrying a successful businessman. It was about finding her place in a world that was far bigger and faster than anything she had ever imagined. She had worked hard to build her own life and career, and now she was part of something even bigger. As Melania settled into her new role, she thought about everything she had achieved. She had followed her dreams and stayed true to herself. And while her life with Donald was filled with excitement and challenges, she knew one thing for sure: her journey was far from over. Chapter 7. Becoming a Mother. In 2006, Melania Trump's life changed in the most wonderful way. On March 20th, she became a mother to a baby boy named Baron William Trump. It was a moment of pure joy. Melania had always dreamed of having a family, and now that dream had come true. The birth of Baron was a big event, but it also marked a new chapter in Melania's life. She was no longer just a model, a wife, or a public figure. Now she was a mother, a role she took very seriously. From the moment she held Baron in her arms, Melania knew that her main focus would be raising him with love and care. Melania and Donald were thrilled to welcome their son into the world. Baron was born healthy and strong, with his mother's calm nature and his father's confidence. Donald proudly announced the news to the world, calling Baron a beautiful boy. Friends, family, and fans sent their congratulations. But for Melania, this was a deeply personal and private moment. She wanted to enjoy this time with her baby, away from the public eye. From the start, Melania was a very hands-on mother. She didn't rely on nannies or assistants to take care of Baron. Instead, she wanted to be there for him every step of the way. She fed him, bathed him, and spent hours rocking him to sleep. Even when she was tired, she didn't mind. "This is the most important job I'll ever have," she thought. Melania's days became centered around Baron. She loved watching him grow, discovering new things every day. His first smile, his first laugh, his first steps, each milestone filled her with pride and happiness. "He's my everything," she often said. Raising a child while being in the spotlight wasn't always easy. As Donald continued his busy career, the Trump family was often in the public eye. Reporters and photographers wanted to know every detail about their lives. But Melania worked hard to protect Baron's privacy. She wanted him to have a normal childhood, even though their life was far from ordinary. Melania focused on creating a safe and loving environment for Baron. She read him bedtime stories, taught him new words, and played games with him. She also made sure to teach him about their family's values. Respect others, work hard, and stay kind, she told him. These lessons were important to her, and she wanted Baron to grow up with a strong sense of character. Family had always been important to Melania, and now it was at the center of her life. She thought often about her own childhood in Slovenia. She remembered how her parents had worked hard to give her and her sister, Inez, a good life. She wanted to do the same for Baron. Even though his life was much more luxurious, Melania wanted to teach him about discipline, gratitude, and the value of hard work. As Baron grew, Melania took an active role in his education. She taught him her native language, Slovenian, as well as French. "It's good to know many languages," she told him. She wanted him to be curious about the world, just like she had been as a child. She also encouraged his creativity, whether it was through drawing, building with blocks, or exploring his favorite toys. Melania loved spending quiet, simple moments with Baron. One of their favorite activities was baking cookies together. Baron loved helping his mother in the kitchen, even if he made a mess. "It's not about being perfect," Melania said with a smile. "It's about having fun." Donald often called Baron Little Donald because he saw so much of himself in his son. But Melania saw Baron as a perfect mix of both parents. He had Donald's confidence and energy, but also Melania's calmness and thoughtfulness. She loved watching him grow into his own unique person. Even though Melania's life was busy, she made sure to always be there for Baron. She attended his school events, helped him with homework, and cheered him on during his activities. She wanted him to know that she was his biggest supporter. In 2016, when Donald Trump ran for president, Melania's role as a mother became even more important. The campaign brought a lot of attention to the Trump family, and life became even busier. But no matter what was happening, Melania stayed focused on Baron. She made sure he felt safe and loved, even during this exciting and challenging time. When Donald won the election, Melania and Baron moved to Washington, D.C. to live in the White House. It was a big change for the family. The White House was full of history and tradition, and Baron had to adjust to a very different life. But Melania worked hard to make their new home comfortable. She created a space where Barron could play, learn, and feel at ease. Throughout it all, Melania remained dedicated to her role as a mother. She often said, "Barron is my priority." Whether she was helping with school projects, teaching him life lessons, or simply spending time together, Melania put her heart into motherhood. Becoming a mother changed Melania in many ways. It made her more patient, more focused, and even more determined. She often thought about the future and the kind of world she wanted Barron to grow up in. "I want him to be happy, healthy, and kind," she said. "That's all that matters." For Melania, motherhood wasn't just a role. It was a journey. It was filled with challenges, joys, and countless unforgettable moments. As she watched Barron grow, she felt a deep sense of pride and gratitude. He was her greatest achievement, and she cherished every moment they shared. Chapter 8. Life changes forever. In 2016, everything in Melania Trump's life changed. Her husband, Donald Trump, made a big announcement. He was running for President of the United States. It was an exciting time, but it was also the beginning of a new and very public chapter in Melania's life. At first, Melania wasn't sure what to expect. She had always preferred to stay in the background, away from the spotlight. But now, her husband's campaign would bring attention to their entire family. Crowds, cameras, and reporters followed them everywhere. Life would never be the same. Donald was confident and energetic during the campaign. He traveled across the country, giving speeches and meeting thousands of people. Melania supported him in her quiet and graceful way. She stood by his side at events, smiling and waving to the crowds. Even though she wasn't as outspoken as Donald, her calm presence made an impression. People admired her poise and elegance. Melania also spoke at some campaign events. This wasn't easy for her. English wasn't her first language, and she was naturally reserved. But she wanted to show her support for her husband. She prepared carefully for each speech, choosing her words thoughtfully. When she spoke, her message was clear. Donald loves America, and he wants the best for its people. The campaign was long and intense. There were ups and downs, and not everyone agreed with Donald's ideas. The media paid close attention to Melania, analyzing everything she said and wore. Some people criticized her, while others praised her. It wasn't easy, but Melania stayed focused. She knew this was an important time for her family. Throughout the campaign, Melania also made sure to take care of their son, Barron. He was only 10 years old at the time, and the campaign brought a lot of changes to his life too. Melania worked hard to protect him from the pressures of being in the spotlight. Family always comes first, she reminded herself. On November 8, 2016, the election took place. It was a historic day. Millions of people voted, and the whole world was watching. That evening, Melania and Donald waited nervously for the results. Would all of their hard work pay off? Finally, late at night, the news came. Donald Trump had won. He would be the 45th President of the United States. Melania couldn't believe it. She felt a mix of emotions, happiness, pride, and a little bit of nervousness. What will this new life be like? She wondered. The victory was celebrated with a big party in New York City. Supporters cheered and waved American flags as Donald gave his victory speech. Melania stood beside him, looking radiant in a white jumpsuit. She smiled and waved to the crowd, but inside, she knew her life was about to change forever. In January 2017, Donald was officially sworn in as president. The inauguration ceremony was a grand event with parades, music, and important guests from around the world. Melania became the First Lady of the United States, a role that came with great responsibility. As the First Lady, Melania moved into the White House, the historic home of every U.S. president since 1800. The White House was grand and full of history, but it also felt very different from her previous life. She now lived in a place where every room had a story, from the famous Oval Office to the elegant state dining room. Melania worked hard to make the White House feel like home for her family. She decorated their private living quarters with her own personal touch, blending comfort with style. She also made sure Barron felt comfortable in their new environment. Moving to Washington, D.C. was a big change for him too, but Melania helped him adjust. Being the First Lady was not an easy job. Melania had to represent the United States at important events, meet world leaders, and give speeches. The media followed her everywhere, analyzing her fashion, her words, and even her expressions. Sometimes it was overwhelming, but Melania remained calm. She stayed true to herself and focused on her responsibilities. One of Melania's first major projects as First Lady was launching the Be Best initiative. This program focused on helping children, promoting kindness, and encouraging online safety. Melania was passionate about these issues. She wanted to make a positive impact, especially for young people. Children are our future, she said. We must help them grow into kind and strong individuals. Melania traveled across the United States and even visited other countries to promote her initiative. She met with students, teachers, and community leaders. She listened to their stories and shared her message of kindness and respect. People admired her dedication and her desire to make a difference. Despite her busy schedule, Melania never forgot her role as a mother. She continued to prioritize Barron, making sure he felt supported and loved. She attended his school events, helped him with homework, and made time for family dinners. Balancing her duties as First Lady and her responsibilities as a mother was challenging, but Melania managed it with grace. Melania's life as First Lady was filled with memorable moments. She hosted elegant state dinners, celebrated holidays at the White House, and participated in traditional events like the Easter egg roll. She also met with world leaders and their families, representing the United States on the global stage. Through it all, Melania carried herself with dignity and elegance. Of course, being in the public eye also brought challenges. Melania faced criticism from some people and praise from others. But she stayed focused on her work and her family. She believed in her role and wanted to make the most of it. "I will do my best," she often said. As the First Lady, Melania learned many lessons. She learned how to handle pressure, how to stay true to herself, and how to use her platform to help others. She also reflected on her journey from a small town in Slovenia to the White House. It was a story of courage, determination, and unexpected opportunities. Looking back, Melania often thought about how much her life had changed. In just a few years, she had gone from being a private individual to one of the most recognized women in the world. It wasn't always easy, but she embraced the challenge. "Life is full of surprises," she said. "You have to be ready for anything." As her time as First Lady continued, Melania remained focused on her goals. She knew that her life had changed forever, but she was ready to face whatever came next with strength and grace. Chapter 9. The First Lady of the United States. When Melania Trump became the First Lady of the United States in 2017, her life changed completely. She now had a big and important role. She wasn't just a wife, a mother, or a former model. She was a representative of the country. People everywhere wanted to know, what would she do as First Lady? Melania decided to focus on helping children. She believed that children are the future, and she wanted to make a difference in their lives. As a mother herself, she understood how important it was to support kids and give them the tools they needed to succeed. One of her first big projects was creating a program called Be Best. This program had 3 main goals: to help children with their well-being, to teach them about online safety, and to show them the importance of kindness. Melania cared deeply about these issues and wanted to spread her message across the country and the world. A focus on well-being. Melania knew that growing up wasn't always easy. Some children struggled with stress, bullying, or feeling lonely. Through Be Best, she encouraged kids to take care of their mental and physical health. She visited schools and hospitals, meeting children and listening to their stories. She talked about the importance of staying active, eating healthy, and being kind to yourself and others. In one school, she spoke to a group of students about staying positive. "It's okay to feel sad or scared sometimes," she said, "but remember, you are strong, and there are people who care about you." Her calm and caring tone made the students feel comfortable. They admired her for taking the time to visit them. Speaking out about online safety. Another big part of Be Best was teaching children how to stay safe online. Melania understood that the internet could be a dangerous place. Children could face bullying, mean comments, or even threats. She wanted to help kids learn how to use technology responsibly and protect themselves. Melania visited schools and spoke with students about how to be smart online. "Think before you post," she told them. "Once you put something online, it stays there forever. Always be kind and respectful." Her advice was simple but important, and many students appreciated her words. She also met with technology companies to discuss how they could make the internet safer for children. Melania believed that everyone, parents, teachers, and companies, needed to work together to protect kids online. The importance of kindness. Melania also used Be Best to promote kindness. She believed that small acts of kindness could make a big difference. She encouraged children to treat others with respect, whether in person or online. During one event, Melania asked a group of students to share ways they could be kind. One student said, "I can help my friend with their homework." Another said, "I can stand up for someone who's being bullied." Melania smiled and said, "That's wonderful. Remember, kindness is powerful." Traveling for Be Best. Melania didn't just focus on children in the United States. She wanted to spread her message around the world. As First Lady, she traveled to many countries to talk about Be Best and meet with children from different cultures. In 2018, she went on a solo trip to Africa, visiting Ghana, Malawi, Kenya, and Egypt. It was her first time traveling alone as First Lady, and she was excited to share her program with others. In Ghana, she visited a hospital and held babies in her arms. In Kenya, she toured a school and watched students perform traditional dances. In Egypt, she explored historic sites and spoke about the importance of education. Everywhere she went, children welcomed her with smiles and excitement. Melania felt deeply connected to the children she met on her trips. She listened to their stories, gave them hugs, and encouraged them to dream big. No matter where you live or what your background is, you have the power to do great things, she told them. Facing challenges. Being First Lady wasn't always easy. Melania was constantly in the spotlight, and not everyone agreed with her ideas. Some people criticized her, saying she didn't do enough or that her projects weren't impactful. Others compared her to previous First Ladies, expecting her to be just like them. But Melania stayed calm. She didn't let the criticism stop her from doing her work. "I focus on what I can do to help others," she said. "That's what matters." Her quiet strength inspired many people who admired her dedication. Memorable moments as First Lady. During her time as First Lady, Melania had many memorable moments. She hosted elegant state dinners at the White House, welcoming leaders from around the world. She decorated the White House for Christmas every year, transforming it into a magical winter wonderland. She also attended events with her husband, representing the United States with grace and elegance. One of her most famous moments was her visit to a shelter for migrant children near the U.S.-Mexico border. She went to meet the children and hear their stories, hoping to bring attention to their needs. However, her visit sparked controversy because of a jacket she wore that had the words, "I really don't care, do you?" written on the back. The jacket caused a lot of confusion, and people argued about what it meant. Melania later explained that it wasn't meant to send a message about the children, but the incident remained one of the most talked about moments of her time as First Lady. Reflections on her role. For Melania, being First Lady was both a challenge and a privilege. It gave her the opportunity to make a difference, but it also came with great pressure. She often reflected on her journey from her small town in Slovenia to the White House. "I never imagined this life," she said, "but I am grateful for the chance to serve." Melania hoped that Be Best would inspire children to believe in themselves and treat others with kindness. She wanted her work to leave a lasting impact even after her time as First Lady ended. As her role in the White House came to an end in January 2021, Melania looked back with pride. She had faced challenges, learned many lessons, and made memories that would last a lifetime. Most importantly, she had stayed true to herself and her mission to help children. Chapter 10. Challenges in the Spotlight. Being the First Lady of the United States was an important and exciting role. But for Melania Trump, it was also full of challenges. From the moment she stepped into the spotlight, people were watching her every move. They talked about her fashion, her choices, and even her quiet personality. It wasn't always easy, but Melania stayed calm and focused on her work. The world was watching. As First Lady, Melania quickly became one of the most photographed women in the world. Every time she appeared in public, cameras flashed and reporters wrote stories. People analyzed everything about her: what she wore, how she spoke, and even the way she stood. Sometimes it felt like no detail was too small. Melania was known for her sense of style. She wore elegant dresses, bold coats, and stylish shoes. Designers loved her, and many of her outfits became iconic. But her fashion choices also sparked debate. Some people admired her clothing, while others criticized it. Melania often stayed silent about the attention. She believed her actions were more important than what she wore. The jacket, controversy. One of the most talked about moments of Melania's time as First Lady happened in 2018. She visited a shelter for migrant children at the U.S.-Mexico border. The visit was emotional, and Melania went to show her care and support for the children. However, it wasn't the visit that made headlines. It was the jacket she wore. The jacket had the words, "I really don't care, do you?" written on the back. Many people were confused and upset. What did the message mean? Was it about the children? The media exploded with questions and criticism. Melania later explained that the jacket wasn't meant to send a message about the children, but the controversy didn't go away. It was a difficult moment, and Melania faced harsh criticism. Still, she stayed calm. "I know what I'm doing," she said. "I don't let others control how I feel." Criticism and pressure. As First Lady, Melania often faced criticism. Some people said she wasn't doing enough. Others compared her to previous First Ladies like Michelle Obama or Jacqueline Kennedy. They expected her to speak more, do more, or act differently. But Melania was her own person. She didn't try to copy anyone else. Instead, she focused on what she believed was important: her family, her Be Best program, and her role as a mother. She believed in quality over quantity. It's not about how much you do, she said. It's about doing the right thing. Despite her efforts, the criticism sometimes hurt. Melania was a private person by nature, and being in the spotlight wasn't always comfortable. But she didn't let the negativity stop her. She reminded herself of her values and stayed focused on her goals. Handling the media. The media played a big role in Melania's life as First Lady. Every speech she gave, every trip she took, and every event she attended was reported in newspapers and on TV. Sometimes the media praised her, and other times they were harsh. Melania handled the attention in her own way. She rarely spoke out or responded to criticism. Instead, she let her actions speak for her. She believed that staying calm and confident was the best way to deal with the pressure. I choose to focus on what's positive, she said. A quiet strength. While Donald Trump was known for his bold and outspoken personality, Melania was different. She was quiet, thoughtful, and reserved. This sometimes made people misunderstand her. They thought she wasn't involved or didn't care. But those who knew her well saw a different side. They saw her quiet strength and determination. Melania's calm nature helped balance the fast-paced and intense life of being in the White House. She supported her husband, but didn't try to take the spotlight. She focused on her family and her work, always staying true to herself. The pressure of perfection. Being First Lady came with high expectations. People expected Melania to be perfect, perfect speeches, perfect actions, and perfect appearances. This pressure was exhausting at times. Melania understood that she couldn't please everyone. No matter what I do, she said, there will always be people who don't agree. Instead of trying to be perfect, Melania focused on doing her best. She accepted that not everyone would like her decisions, and that was okay. She believed in staying strong and not letting others control her feelings. A role model for resilience. Melania's ability to stay calm under pressure inspired many people. They admired her grace and her ability to rise above negativity. Despite the challenges, she continued to work on her Be Best initiative, visit schools and hospitals, and represent the United States on the global stage. Her journey showed that being in the spotlight wasn't easy, but it was possible to stay strong and true to yourself. Melania taught others that kindness, patience, and resilience were powerful tools, even in the face of criticism. Reflecting on the challenges. As Melania's time as First Lady continued, she often reflected on the challenges she faced. She thought about her journey from a small town in Slovenia to the White House. It had been a long and unexpected path, full of twists and turns. The challenges in the spotlight taught her many lessons. She learned to stay focused on what mattered, to block out negativity, and to stay true to herself. Most importantly, she learned that no matter how difficult things became, it was always possible to keep going. A graceful presence. Through it all, Melania remained a graceful and elegant presence. She didn't let the challenges define her. Instead, she used them to grow stronger and more determined. She focused on her work, her family, and her mission to help others. Even though being First Lady was not always easy, Melania showed that with patience and resilience, it was possible to rise above the challenges. She stayed calm, stayed focused, and stayed true to her values. And in doing so, she left her own unique mark on history. Chapter 11. A unique First Lady. Melania Trump was not like any other First Lady. She was born in a small town in Slovenia, far from the bright lights of Washington, D.C. She was the First Lady born in another country since Louisa Adams in the early 1800s. Her journey to the White House was extraordinary. Many people admired her for her unique story, her quiet strength, and her elegant grace. From Slovenia to the White House. Melania's journey started in Sevnica, a small town surrounded by hills and forests. Her childhood was simple, but her dreams were big. She worked hard to become a model and eventually moved to Milan, Paris, and then New York City. It was there that she met Donald Trump, a businessman who would later become President of the United States. Becoming the First Lady was not something Melania had ever imagined. She was now living in the White House, a place filled with history and tradition. She was part of a role that had been held by women like Eleanor Roosevelt, Jacqueline Kennedy, and Michelle Obama. But Melania brought something unique to this role. Her own life story and perspective, inspiring others with her journey. Melania's life story inspired many people. She showed that it was possible to achieve great things, no matter where you come from. She had started in a small town, far from the centers of power and fame, and risen to one of the most visible roles in the world. People admired her for her hard work and determination. She had built a successful modeling career on her own, long before she became the wife of Donald Trump. Her story showed that success doesn't come easily. It takes effort, patience, and the courage to take risks. For immigrants, Melania was a symbol of possibility. She represented the idea that America was a place where dreams could come true. Her presence in the White House was a reminder that everyone has a story, and that every story matters. Bringing her style to the role. As First Lady, Melania brought her own style to the role. She wasn't loud or flashy. Instead, she was calm, thoughtful, and elegant. Her actions spoke louder than her words. She focused on her responsibilities and let her work define her. Melania was known for her fashion sense. She often wore outfits that were bold, stylish, and carefully chosen. Whether she was attending a state dinner, meeting world leaders, or visiting children in a hospital, her clothes always made a statement. Some people praised her style, while others criticized it. But one thing was clear. Melania's fashion choices were always uniquely hers. Her quiet and reserved personality also set her apart. Unlike some previous First Ladies, Melania didn't give many interviews or make a lot of public speeches. She preferred to stay out of the spotlight and focus on her work behind the scenes. Some people misunderstood this, thinking she wasn't involved or didn't care. But those close to her knew the truth. Melania cared deeply and worked hard in her own way. Strength in the face of challenges. Being the First Lady came with many challenges. Melania faced constant attention from the media, and her every move was closely watched. People commented on everything she did, from the way she spoke to the way she dressed. Some of the criticism was harsh and unfair. But Melania stayed strong. She didn't let the negativity affect her. Instead, she focused on her goals and her family. She showed that strength doesn't always have to be loud. It can also be quiet and steady. Her ability to remain calm and graceful under pressure inspired many people. One of Melania's strengths was her ability to handle difficult situations with dignity. Even when faced with criticism or controversy, she remained composed. She didn't react with anger or defensiveness. Instead, she focused on doing her job and moving forward, connecting with children. Melania's Be Best initiative was a major part of her work as First Lady. Through this program, she focused on helping children with their well-being, online safety, and the importance of kindness. She believed that children were the future, and that it was important to give them the tools they needed to succeed. She visited schools, hospitals, and community centers, meeting children from all walks of life. She listened to their stories and encouraged them to believe in themselves. Her calm and caring nature made children feel comfortable around her. Many kids admired her and saw her as a role model. Melania's love for children was clear in everything she did. She often said, "Children are our future. We must teach them how to be strong, kind, and responsible." Her work with Be Best showed her commitment to making a positive difference in their lives, representing the United States. As First Lady, Melania also represented the United States on the global stage. She traveled to other countries, meeting with leaders and their families. Her visits were an important part of her role, helping to build relationships between nations. One of her most memorable trips was to Africa, where she visited schools, hospitals, and wildlife conservation centers. She wore traditional clothing to honor the local culture and spent time talking to children and teachers. The trip was a success, and Melania was praised for her efforts to connect with people from different backgrounds. Her travels showed that she was more than just a First Lady. She was a bridge between cultures. She used her platform to promote understanding and kindness, values she believed were essential for a better world. Reflections on her role. Looking back on her time as First Lady, Melania often reflected on how far she had come. Her journey from Slovenia to the White House was extraordinary, filled with challenges and opportunities. She knew that her role wasn't just about representing herself, it was about representing her country and inspiring others. Melania's unique background made her different from any other First Lady in history. Her life story showed that success could come from hard work, determination, and staying true to yourself. She didn't try to fit into anyone else's mold. She created her own path. For Melania, being the First Lady was both an honor and a responsibility. She embraced the role with grace and strength, always striving to make a positive impact. Her legacy as a unique and inspiring First Lady will be remembered for years to come. Chapter 12. Life After the White House. In January 2021, Donald Trump's time as president came to an end. After 4 years in the White House, Melania Trump and her family left Washington, D.C. and returned to their private life. It was a new chapter, filled with changes and new beginnings. For Melania, leaving the White House was bittersweet. She was proud of the work she had done as First Lady, especially her Be Best program for children. But she was also ready to move on. Life in the White House had been exciting, but also challenging. Now, she wanted to focus on what mattered most to her, her family, and her personal projects. A quiet transition. The move out of the White House was a big change for Melania. After living in one of the most famous buildings in the world, she returned to a quieter life. She and Donald settled in Mar-a-Lago, their luxurious estate in Florida. The warm weather, palm trees, and peaceful atmosphere were a welcome change from the busy life of Washington, D.C. Melania adjusted quickly to the slower pace. She enjoyed spending time with Barron, who was now a teenager. He was growing up fast, and Melania wanted to be there for him every step of the way. She focused on helping him with his studies and supporting him as he prepared for the next phase of his life. A focus on family. Family had always been Melania's top priority. After leaving the White House, she dedicated even more time to her role as a mother. Barron was attending school in Florida, and Melania stayed involved in his education. She encouraged him to work hard, dream big, and stay grounded. Donald also appreciated Melania's support during this time. Life after the presidency came with its own challenges, but Melania remained a steady presence by his side. She continued to offer him advice and encouragement, just as she had during their time in the White House. The Trump family often spent time together at Mar-a-Lago, hosting dinners and enjoying quiet evenings. For Melania, these moments of togetherness were precious. They reminded her of what was most important: love, family, and the simple joys of life. Personal projects. Even though Melania was no longer in the public eye as First Lady, she didn't stop working. She began focusing on personal projects that were close to her heart. These included continuing some of the work she had started with Be Best. Melania remained passionate about helping children. She worked on projects related to education, health, and kindness. Though she no longer had the platform of the White House, she found other ways to make a difference. Helping children will always be important to me, she said. In addition to her charity work, Melania explored creative projects. She had always loved fashion and design, and she found joy in expressing herself through art. She kept her projects private, preferring to work quietly behind the scenes. Staying out of the spotlight. Unlike some former First Ladies, Melania chose to live a very private life after leaving the White House. She rarely gave interviews or appeared at public events. Instead, she focused on her family and personal interests. Some people wondered why Melania stayed so quiet, but those who knew her understood that this was simply her personality. She had always been reserved and thoughtful, preferring to let her actions speak louder than her words. "I value my privacy," she often said. "It's important for me and my family." Melania's choice to stay out of the spotlight also allowed her to spend more quality time with Barron and focus on his upbringing. She believed that being a present and supportive mother was one of the most important roles she could play. Reflecting on her journey, as Melania adjusted to her new life, she often thought about her incredible journey. She had come a long way from her small town in Slovenia. From her early days as a model in Milan and Paris to her time as First Lady, her life had been filled with unexpected opportunities and challenges. Melania was proud of what she'd achieved. She knew that her time in the White House had been unique, and that she had left her own mark as First Lady. She hoped that her work with Be Best had made a difference in the lives of children. She also hoped that her journey would inspire others to believe in themselves and follow their dreams. "Life is full of surprises," she often said. "You never know where your journey will take you, but if you stay true to yourself and work hard, anything is possible." A new chapter. Life after the White House was peaceful, but it was also the beginning of a new chapter. Melania continued to focus on her role as a mother and wife while pursuing her personal passions. She enjoyed the simple things, spending time with family, working on her projects, and enjoying the beauty of Florida. Though she had stepped away from public life, Melania's story continued to inspire many people. Her journey from Slovenia to the White House was a testament to the power of determination, grace, and resilience. She had faced challenges, overcome obstacles, and stayed true to herself every step of the way. Melania. Trump's life after the White House may not be as public as it once was, but it remains a story of strength, grace, and quiet success. She continues to live by her values, focusing on what matters most: her family, her passions, and her commitment to helping others.